Darnell, it's Bob and Tony in Eastern Connecticut. How are you, my
Good evening,
friend?
Darnell.
I'm doing great, guys. How you guys doing?
We're doing
fine,
very
thank you.
good, Darnell. You know, it was a pleasure talking to you this past summer on Thursday Night Tailgate, and Chris Mascaro, my colleague there, sends his regards, Darnell.
Thank you so much, man. You guys have been great. You know, it would always allow me to come on and speak to you guys. Obviously, you know, how's the weather up there in Connecticut?
It's getting cold.
Getting cold now.
It's going to be in the 20s tonight, Darnell, and yeah, it's, let's put it, the summer's over, let's just say that, but
Absolutely.
we, again, I had the chance of talking to Darnell this summer while co-hosting with Chris, and Darnell's terrific as a guest to come on, and I'm sure he'll be on the TNT show again. But a little bit of background for our fans. Darnell played for the Giants, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Saints between 2002 2009. Born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, attended Pitt. I'll get this right, Tony. College football at Pitt. Again, drafted, well, basically started at free safety at Pitt. And we were talking to this before at dinner, Darnell, that you played quarterback in high school, a little bit of linebacker, free safety in college, a little bit of wide receiver, linebacker, and a tight end in the pros. I mean, that is a jock of all trades, if there ever was one. But
Exactly.
it's something. But let me take it back before that. Growing up in Pittsburgh, born in the 70s, Darnell, were you a Steelers fan, and was football always your favorite sport?
I tell you what, you know, growing up, I was a fan of football. Grew up in a hill district, you know, didn't really have much. Me and my, you know, younger brother Dave, we used to go out all the time, and just, you know, if it snowed a lot, they gave us more incentive to just pad our clothes up, put on a couple pairs of sweats, and just play some tackle football with no equipment. And just grew up loving the sport. Was always a tough kid, and I actually, to be honest, wanted to be a wrestler. In my mind, I was going to be like Hulk Hogan. You know, I used to, you know, talk in the mirror and have my little sayings going. I used to take some paper bags and cut them up, put some cardboard, wrap aluminum foil around it, and paper clip it to the belt. And that was a wrestling belt. We'd go outside and wrestle all day for it. So in my mind, I was going to be the next WWF champion. It just didn't work out that way.
You heard it here first on MNST. A tight end who wanted to be a WWE champion. That is great stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I talk about that jock of all trades, Darnell. You know, again, how and when did the transition to tight end all come about when you got to the pros? I know you were growing, that's for sure, and you got up to about 260 pounds. But it was some kind of transition over the years.
Well, I tell you, it was only a physical transition, but a mental transition. Going through high school, I didn't play organized football until I was in ninth grade. Everything was just street ball, so you was every position: tight end, receiver, you know, quarterback. I love John Elway, love Randall Cunningham, love Jerry Rice, you know, love Chris Carter. So you know, you talk about all these guys who were, you know, just great players. You try to emulate it, you know, every Sunday, and when the game would be on, we'd go out there and start playing. So as I was coming up, you know, I ended up playing quarterback in high school and got a lot of honors and did a lot of things on offense and defense. Went to Pitt, was sad to be the number one recruit. Get to Pitt, the first couple of weeks I'm there, they want to change me to receiver. Say, you're so athletic, you do this, you do that. I really wasn't having it because the whole time I was being recruited by everybody, it was like, we only want you for a quarterback. So it was just a mental thing where I was stuck on, you know, I could throw 70 yards on one knee. I could roll to the right and do this. You know, there were so many things I could do athletically. You know, with all the pistol systems now, it's kind of frustrating watching because I know I would have fit perfectly in those, but it was more of a conventional drop back type, you know, West Coast offense setting. And I was a little bit of a, you know, hybrid at the time. And then the Cordell / Stewart thing was going on. So they got me all these positions. I did everything at Pitt. I even washed clothes and you know, drove the team bus at times. You know, it felt like I was doing everything there. But at the end of the day, you know, God really grew me up as I went through Pitt. Ended up leaving and you know, getting hurt my senior year. And that year that I was out of football, just not really playing, allowed me to realize, you know, how much I just love the camaraderie, love just being able to compete at a high level. And when I got my opportunity again, I just made the most of it. And it didn't matter if I had to just, hold kicks. I was going to be doing what, make sure I did whatever to make the team.
Again, we're on the phone with former NFL tight end Darnell Dinkins, and as we talk to Darnell, we have pictures of him and various parts of his career on the television screen. Tony, question for Darnell.
And good evening, Darnell. It's in addition to all the positions that you played, we see you in arena football. We see you playing football in Germany. And I'm thinking to myself, you're Dr. Football. You've done everything in the world. Now, what is it like being an American football player in Germany? The culture, the game, is it the fans? I mean, what is that like?
If you ever watched a soccer game on television, with all the horns blowing and all the things blowing, that's what it's like, except as football players. The fans are wild. They love it. They got their bratwurst and eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream, and they love it. So we were just, it was a great, opportunity to go over there. For me, it was the first opportunity to experience NFL. A lot of guys had been on teams and allocated over there. My thing was the best guys play. So when I went over there, I was a third-string quarterback behind T. Martin and Romero Miller, and really beat Romero out. And then I really was, obviously, the Steelers wanted to see T. I was like, well, let me play tight end. And over there, I just, played some tight end, had a lot of catches, had the most yards up to the catch, blocked a couple punts, and just really just had fun playing. But the fans, you couldn't understand what they were saying, but you knew they were cheering, and a high five is universal. So, you don't really need to be able to speak German, for that. But I learned a couple sayings like "Auf geht's das Dia," which is "Have a good day." So, I learned one in 4 months. I learned one phrase. So, that's good.
That's good stuff. And then you find yourself back in the States. You spent parts of 2 seasons, Darnell, with the Giants. You play with guys like Tiki Barber, Amani Toomer, Jeremy Shockey, also with New Orleans, and Michael Strahan and others. And ironically, your offensive coordinator in New York was Sean Payton, who you later would play under in New Orleans on the Super Bowl team, though. But Darnell, did you like the intensity and spotlight of playing in New York?
I did. I was coming from, NFL Europe, and my main thing, once again, was very young and, was very athletic, and my thing was the best guys will play. Yeah. So I figured I'm going to outwork everybody. So I would be the first one in. I would get to the meeting room about maybe 5:45, as Jim Foster would go walking past and see me in there watching film. He was kind of, shocked. And Sean would come in, and then here's a picture for you. So in the meeting room, you would have Jesse Palmer come in, who's now commentating, on for college football. Then you would have Kerry Collins and Jason Garrett both come in as we're all watching film. So you got Sean Payton, Jesse Palmer, Jason Garrett, and Kerry Collins, and myself in the room. So it was a pretty, big name room. A lot of well-known quarterbacks who are all doing well for themselves, right now. So I just, you talk about the NFL and the football knowledge that I got from just hearing Coach Payton talk, from hearing Kerry talk about what he sees. Jason is just a phenomenal coach, and he was a coach as he was playing. So it was just good just to be around those type of guys, and that really helped me in my coaching career. So it was very intense. And the first time I had a couple games, played against the Patriots. I asked to play special teams, ran down and knocked Kevin Falk out the game when he caught a punt. And then they said, well, let this kid play tight end. So the first time I lined up a tight end was a full goal line scrimmage, and I had to block Michael Strahan. So, and needless to say, I blocked him a couple times. Ron Dane scored, and the rest is kind of history. So whatever I had to do, it just was really about being the best and, trying to outwork the guy across from me.
And you talk about tough defensive players, Darnell. You go to the Ravens in 04 and 05. Now, I know Billick is an offensive mind, and you play with guys like Jamal Lewis, had some fabulous years, and Deion Sanders was there at the time. But what comes to mind, I think of those teams, Tony, I think of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, two of the toughest defensive players of the last few decades. Now, Darnell, what was it like practicing against guys like that?
It was fun. It was fun playing against guys like that because it makes you better. Whenever I got a chance to shake up Terrell Suggs or block them, or even get me, it just made me really a tougher player. It made me understand the tight end position. because at that time it was still only my third year actually playing tight end ever. I never had my hand out on the ground playing football, ever, which was a weird thing. I always been a quarterback or a defensive guy roaming around, but playing with your hand in the dirt is just a different type of learning altogether. So it just helped. And Ray was, always moving around. You had Ed Reed, who was just opportunistic. And then you had Deion Sanders over there, and just a plethora of guys. Cordell Stewart, who I had looked up to that point, and there was just so many quality guys on there who were good veteran players. You had Dale Carter on the team. I mean, he was a guy who was a very good player with the Chiefs for a long time. So it was really good just to be able to learn from the guys here on Talk Football and learn how to practice. I really learned how to practice. One time here I am blocking Peter Boulware. Don't really understand, at the time, you block the guy across from you. Peter Boulware, a great pass rusher. I kind of get both of my hands on the inside and slam him to the ground. And then Jared Johnson comes running up to me and pushes me in the back, like, don't you be slamming down our guy like that, and just like, I didn't understand at the time. Practice was a practice. So me and Jared kind of got into it. And, that's when I kind of started getting the name of being this a strong player. But I just didn't take no mess. But I just practiced hard. But I learned that you don't have to slam your own teammates when you're practicing.
I should tell our viewers Darnell appeared in 89 games, scored 4 touchdowns, more of a blocking tight end, but definitely an all-around player. Tony, question?
And Darnell, in studying your career, the Giants go from a good season to a bad season. The Ravens, a good season to a bad season. The Browns, a bad season to a good season. I mean, when I call you Dr. Football, you're like, I mean, this is amazing. And I mean, how does a player adjust, like, from, maybe one year to another, one team to another, good season, bad season? I mean, it must try your emotions and your patience at times.
It does. The toughest thing started being, when you have little ones the more you know about the game and understand the business of the game, it makes it a little harder for yourself to deal with it, because people start seeing you, even though you're a person and your wife loves you and, and your kids look up to you, they still only see you as a commodity. So you're only as good as your last game, your last block. And so when you start, getting put on that, top trade rumors or cut rumors, you still got a family to provide for. So the more you start seeing the business side of it, it takes away. But for me, I talk to kids all the time. Nowadays I do a lot of speaking. I'm speaking all the high schools, getting kids prepared for college, with just, how many core classes they need and things like that. But when you have, I call it the KYR factor, know your role. When you know who you are as an individual, as a player, you don't go out here and try to be something you're not. And that's a lot of college guys coming to the NFL thinking they're going to be something, and really you got to be a role player. Some guys who've been all-star linebackers or all-star tight ends, now you got to be a special teamer and become a blocker. So I understood that. And the more valuable I made myself each and every week, it's not just about playing one position. And Mike Pope, the tight end coach with the Giants, always say, well, if you're a one-trick pony, you better be real good at that one trick. Yeah. If not, you better be able to do a lot of things. So I realized when the teams were looking at, out of the 53-man roster, who's going to be our starting 48 guys we dressed out, you look at Dinkins, he do every phase of special teams. He's a blocker. He's a receiver. So I made sure I made myself valuable in that sense. So I was always in that top 20 to 30 guys of, always being needed come game day.
I'm going to piggyback on that question back to the tight end position. Darnell, to me, one of the tougher positions, Tony, to play in football. Number one, you got to know the pass routes, right?
Yes.
You have to know the blocking schemes also. You have a lot of great blocks, Darnell, that go unnoticed. When you do catch passes, the majority of the time you're going to take brutal hits. To me, it's truly an important but underrated position throughout the league right now.
Absolutely. I think that position is evolving, though. When you look at guys, this is what things Gonzalez has been able to do. You look at Jimmy Graham now just totally just dominating the tight end position because you create mismatches. Defenses are predicated on where the tight end is most of the time. So when you start flexing tight end out, it gives them mismatch problems. You put a linebacker out the box, you take a linebacker out the box, you take a safety out the box. And now you create problems in the run game for the defense. So having a tight end is going to be great, but at the end of the day, people don't realize tight ends, though, just as much as a quarterback. Like you said, you need to know the pass protection, you need to know the run game, you need to know the pass routes, and you need to be able to be effective in all those phases. And the teams that can have that dual threat, like Gronkowski, I mean, he changed the game. He can block, he can go out on routes, he can flex out, and really you just create so many mismatches with these agile, athletic tight ends, not these big stocky guys that you're not used to, be back in the day. And this kind of started with the Shockies of the world, the Kellen Winslows of the world, and they just continue to evolve. But you definitely need the tight end in the offense because defenses have mismatch problems, and it's just going to continue to evolve. Definitely underrated, but in the defensive meeting rooms and in the offensive meeting rooms, they're all looking for these new hybrid type tight ends. Yeah. And from the 49ers to the Saints, those teams, when you look at those offenses, they got some powerful offenses. They all have a quality tight end in the helm.
That's true, and we have a few more minutes on the phone with the very enjoyable Darnell Dinkins. Tony, question.
And Darnell, when you left football at the end of the 2009 season, did you find your adjustment out of football kind of tough?
You know what? I think it is for certain guys. I realize that what I try to do now is be a bridge for high school kids to college, and for college guys to the pros, and ultimately for pro guys out. Because in those transition states, guys don't understand or need help seeing around corners. And what I try to do, and what I try to do with myself, is just always be prepared. From the first time I played, how do I make sure I can contain this way of living, and live beyond my means, and don't do things now that's going to affect me later. And
right.
a lot of guys, like, they'll get their check. You get a salary, a huge salary, you get a bonus, but at the end of the day, you may be making $500,000-$600,000, but you'll get paid 1/17 of that salary throughout the season. So if you get a check for $50,000 after taxes is like $30,000, I almost had a heart attack in my locker when I seen how much I was getting taxed. I'm like, in our country's in a deficit, they're taking half of my check.
Something's not right there.
Right. But I really understood what it was, so I made sure I prepared. Some guys take that and go blow it in the club and want to look for other people. I, in turn, said, I need to start preparing now. So I always made sure I was around the coaches, talk with a lot of the owners, talk with Steve Rashadi about, what do you do to maintain this? How do you run this? And always just ask the right questions. And really, at the end of the day, always remember that, you get more with sugar than you do with salt. So never burn a bridge, because you never know how that person will come back, end up helping you. So I ended up, doing some commentating. We did some shows here and there, did a post-game show with the University of Pittsburgh. They loved me. Got an opportunity to commentate for the Pittsburgh Power Arena team. Loved doing that. Opportunity presented itself to coach with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Did that. Then coached at Rutgers University last season and had a phenomenal year. Won the first Big East championship there. And now with Tough Guy University, I go around and speak. I left Rutgers, and my kids are getting older. Wanted to be a little more instrumental in their life. But I talk to kids all over the country about the recruiting process, being prepared with my company, Tough Guy University, and we talk about the core classes, grade point average, all these different things. So the guys who are just living for the here and now in the NFL, I feel sorry for some guys who are going to have that trouble transitioning, but they have to start setting a plan today and understand that even if you play a 10-year career, at the end of the day, you'll be possibly 34, 35, and there's a lot of life to live. Yeah. And you have to start preparing now.
And Darnell, I think the week after I talked to you in the summer, Chris and I also talked to Eric Dickerson the following week, and we talked about how tough the game is, how physical it was and still is. And I asked Eric, is there any way that anyone can play in this league between 5 and 10 years and come out unscathed? And he said it's totally impossible. But I was just wondering how your current health is, and for everything you did, you probably are doing okay, I hope.
Yeah, well, you know what? I stay in the gym and do my abs and curls for my wife. She loves the beach body, so it gives me extra kudos from her. She'll give me extra back rubs because she likes the way I look with my shirt off. Hey. So I stay fit for that. But other than that, you get a couple hand injuries, shoulders, feet. I had surgery on both my feet, and when it rains, I know when it's going to rain. It's weird to say, I get a little bit achy. But for the most part, God has kept my body intact more than anything. He's kept my mind intact. Oh, yeah. I could bench press 275 could run a 4.5 one time before I blew both my hamstrings out. But the 6 inches between my ears, he's kept intact, and I'm thankful to God for that.
And we mentioned Tony. Darnell does have a degree in criminology, and I know you've done the coaching, the broadcasting, of course, the career, but you get a ton of satisfaction speaking to these at-risk youngsters and the motivational speaking. Darnell, I would have to say right now you'd probably consider that your true calling.
Absolutely. You know, it's not every day where a guy, you know, when I was coming up, my coach told me, hey, you know, 1 in so many million, you know, make it to the NFL. So when I heard that, I said, why not me? And so now that I can go back, being a guy who went to college, was the first person in my family to go to college, went on to the NFL, you know, played 9 years, won the Super Bowl, coached in the NFL, coached in college, and now I can go back and tell these kids, here's a game plan. If you want to make it, here's what it takes. It's not sitting around playing these video games, tweeting, you know, Facebooking. It's about going out and working and having work ethic. And at the end of the day, most of the time, people will know you for your effort, your toughness, heart, intensity, commitment. That spells ethic. You know, work ethic is what gets you through. Not how talented you are, not how fast you can talk, not how fast you are, but your work ethic each and every day. Because coaches want people who are consistent. And now that I can go out and talk to kids about this, I absolutely love it. I love after the last 16 years, it's been all football. Now I actually have time to myself, take the kids to the gym in the morning and go work out. I mean, all my kids get straight A's. They're phenomenal in sports, and I couldn't be a prouder father, you know. So at the end of the day, you know, I'm just really just able to go out and speak on the testimonies that I've been through, the good and the bad. I'm not the guy who say, don't do drugs, don't do this, but I am a guy who said, I've seen a situation happen to a guy where I was in a situation. Here I am, one of the top 100 players coming up my senior year. I have to take the SAT 4 times because I wasn't prepared. So it's just been a blessing to be able to go out and speak to these kids on what they need to do outside of sports. Don't put all your eggs into the basketball camps, then go to get to college and you only got a 1.8 GPA and can't get in. Yeah. Apply yourself each and every way.
That's one hell of a role model speaking right there. Tony, final comment or question?
And, you know, Darnell, you played for some really interesting head coaches. You played for Jim Fossil. You played for Brian Billick. You played for Romeo Crennel. I'm not asking you to pick favorites or say who you didn't like, but what struck you, like, with these gentlemen, and what characteristic did you maybe like in one of them that you thought, hey, that's what I'd like to give to the people that come in under me?
I tell you what, if I could emulate any of them, it's Sean Payton. And I think that's, you know, obvious with the job he's on with the Saints again this year. Never seen a more encouraging, but at the same time scary guy in the position of what he does. So smart, makes the game of football and practice fun, treats his professionals like grown men, and expect a lot without saying a lot, but expects you to do the right thing, you know, and the qualities he's possessive as a coach is top of the line, and I respect him. And even at Rutgers last season, you know, he flew me down for, you know, to try to interview with the Saints to come on as a coach, because we have such a great relationship. He appreciates my work ethic, and you know, I had nothing but, you know, ultimate respect. Not to say Coach Fossil loved my work ethic, asked me to come out and, you know, play for the Las Vegas team he had, you know, out there when I had retired, and I just was really done with football at that point. But have a great respect and relationship with him, and, you know, just all the coaches. They all were great, but Sean Payton definitely. It's that it was just a magical year, and just hearing him talk football, it's just, you know, you want to turn on your tape recorder because you don't want to miss a beat.
Isn't that great?
And definitely
Isn't that great?
Passed along a lot of professional qualities and professionalism as a whole on to one man named Darnell Dinkins. And we have to thank you, sir. Darnell, please keep in touch.
Really a
and
blessing.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
we will talk again on the Thursday night show sometime down the road. And I'll give Chris your regards and our best to your family, and keep in touch. And I just want to appreciate the way you've been throughout the booking process. It's been a pleasure talking with you, sir.
I appreciate you guys always having me on, man. And I wanted to say, you know, me and my wife, this is our like reality TV night. That's my guilty pleasure. So my wife is waiting patiently for me right now.
Oh, okay.
As we can get back to like our Vanderpumps show. So I thank you guys for having me on, and my wife.
It's
Melissa,
our
this has
honor,
been
Darnell.
amazing.
Thank you.
You're always
Thank
you're always welcome. We'll talk soon, sir. Take care. Bye.
Good
All
night.
right, thank you.
All right. Good night.